Today we're coming at you from the Oakland Bay recreational area. Oakland Bay is just a little north of Shelton, Washington. There is a Vibrio bacteria warning, but that pretty much goes for all the summer months, really anywhere in the Puget Sound. So when you harvest clams or oysters this time of year, you just have to make sure that you cook it thoroughly and you're good to go. This is a sneaky little spot right now where we can go around, gather up all the clams we want, some oysters if we find those. We'll probably pick some berries too, and then we're gonna head back to our outdoor kitchen and cook up a feast together. So let's go see what we can find. This is a little map of the area we're at here now. It's in the Bayshore Preserve. This is the entrance to the Bayshore Preserve. We're actually up here right now, I believe. This right here is marked as the WDFW public tidelands over here, but they actually stretch all along the border of the preserve. And the best clamming, from what I heard, is down here along this stretch, bordering along that main tidal channel. So we're gonna be taking a walk down that way, and we're gonna try our luck over there. It's actually kind of cool. The Bayshore Preserve used to be a golf course, but 13 years ago the golf course closed and it got bought up by Washington State, and it is now the Bayshore Preserve, and they're just handing it back over to nature. Let's go for a walk, find some clams. Oh, look at that. This is the second apple tree I've seen here now. And definitely a lot of oysters here, so we're gonna be harvesting up some oysters as well. Very good to see. One thing that's cool about this beach is that you do not need to have a particularly low tide to harvest clams. You only have to have about a +2 foot low tide to access the clam beds. Wow, that is wild. This beach is completely covered in little snails. I mistook them for just rocks at first glance. Oh, this is Clam Central. All right, so we found a good spot here that looks extremely clammy and oystery. So I'm just gonna take my bucket right out of my bucket backpack. Got the fabric sitting on a pile of oysters there so it won't get too muddy. This beach is very muddy, but it's also got very rocky areas, and the clams actually like hanging out in the gravelly areas, so you don't have to get yourself super muddy to gather clams here. But you do want to be careful, because once it gets muddy fast, and it is very sticky mud. There's two of us here today, myself and my beautiful wife. We both are licensed for shellfishing. It's worth noting that you actually only need a Washington shellfish license. Even though we're on the Puget Sound, you don't need a Puget Sound endorsement to gather clams. You just need the shellfish license. And the limit is 40 clams or 10 pounds per person, whichever you hit first. Since there's two of us, we're gonna be going for 80 clams. We're definitely not gonna be hitting that 10-pound limit because we're just gathering Manila clams, which are on the smaller side. They're generally only gonna be between 1.5 to 2.5 inches across the shell. And they actually have to be a minimum of 1.5 inches to keep them. You have to put back all of the ones that are smaller than 1.5. So Manila clams generally hang out in the middle to upper tidal zone, and they actually like it a little more gravelly, so you don't have to go down deep into the mud flats to find them. This spot looks great here. There's lots of little clam holes and lots of evidence of clams. So we're gonna start digging right here and try our luck. There we go, we're already finding clams. A lot of them too. Manila clams are also very shallow. You do not have to go deep to find them. It's a decent sized one right there. Very encouraging so far. So that one's a little undersized. That one will go back. Yeah, very encouraging start here. This beach is clammy. All right, make myself a little pile. Always look out for empty clams, they'll trick you. Very solid start. It's not going to take us long to catch both our limits here at all. All right, so we're definitely gonna be getting a lot of clams. The only question now is, what are we gonna make with them? Is it just a steamed clam day? Is it a linguine day? Is it a chowder day? I don't know, we already did chowder once. So I think we're gonna do something different than chowder. I'm thinking linguine might be the way to go. There are so many clams here. I love digging clams. It is like digging for buried treasure. So we're definitely gonna have no problem catching our limit on clams. Only question is, are we gonna be able to get our limit on oysters? The limit for oysters is 18 per person, and you have to make sure that you shuck them on the beach and leave the shells at the same tide level that you grab them at. Honestly, I don't know if we're gonna grab, even if we can, I don't know if we can handle 36 oysters. We'll see how that goes. You also want to make sure when you are digging for clams that you leave your holes back as close to the way you found them as you can. Cover those holes back up. All right, so just from that first scrape, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 clams. Which is pretty amazing. Feels especially amazing after my last experience clamming. It was not easy finding clams at Tolmy Beach. All right, I'm gonna rinse these off real quick because I don't like dirty clams. So Washington State is divided up by marine areas, and this one here is Marine Area 13. Oh, there's a sneaky dead clam in there. All right, so we got 14 clams. I always like to clean them off as I'm getting them and check for that, because you don't want to take dead clams home counting against your limit. Unfortunately for us, as avid crabbers, Area 13 is closed to crabbing, so we can't catch crabs today, but that's all right. So we are gonna get plenty of clams, and we'll get a lot of oysters too. Plenty enough food to feed the whole family. The reason being for crabbing being closed in Area 13, and for much of the areas where it is closed in the Puget Sound, is that the returning population of Dungeness crabs is very low, and they're trying to let the Dungeness crab population recover. So even though there is actually a lot of red rock crabs available, they're keeping crabbing closed so that the Dungeness crab population isn't harmed by bycatch while people are trying to catch red rock crabs, which is understandable. But we're hoping sometime soon they'll open things up at least for red rock crabs. Not completely clean, but much cleaner than they were. I love the variations of color that you get on Manila clams. So we're just gonna put our first grab there in my bucket on ice. There we go. All right, let's keep digging. This spot actually looks incredible right here. So when you're looking for clams, you're looking for these little holes. These little holes are all indicators that there are clams in there. Definitely some clams in there. I'm not seeing quite as many as that first hole we dug. The different clam species in Washington State all like different tidal levels, different depths. So you really want to, when you're targeting specific species, you want to pay attention to that. These Manila clams are going to be toward the middle to upper level of the tidal area, and they only going about 2 to 6 inches down in depth, so you don't have to dig very deep for them. They're not really clams that you got to bring a shovel along for. Another thing to keep in mind, especially when you're gathering clams in the summertime here in the Puget Sound, because the toxin levels are often much higher in the summer, and you always have to pay really close attention to what the current warnings are out for the area that you're digging, and it can change on a daily basis. So always check online before you go out for a dig, because you never know if those toxin levels are going to change on a daily basis. Also, depending on what clams you find, the different clam species here in Washington State can hold on to toxins for a very different amount of time Manila clams especially don't hold on to toxins for a very long time, so they're pretty safe to gather during the summer. But there are varnish clams, which aren't particularly good for eating in general, but they hold on to toxins for a very long time, and that is one of the main reasons they're not very good for eating. So always pay attention to what species you're gathering. Tough to see them when it's this rocky. There's definitely some clams in there. Yep, there we go. There's a good sized one. That one's undersized. Just undersized. All right, I think I snagged all the keepers out of there. Put that back the way I found it. Let's give this spot a try right here. There we go, that's already looking more promising. I just love clamming. Like, there's nothing else quite like just pulling little morsels of goodness right up out of the ground. It may be that I love foraging for food so much because of my family heritage. I'm French Canadian, and my family actually migrated here from New France in the late 1600s. And some of my ancestors took Native American wives. So I've got old French trapper blood and a little bit of Native American blood in me. So I've always imagined that that is in large part why I like harvesting food so much. It's funny, one of my earliest migrant ancestors, Etienne Boisvert, has a memorial in Canada that reads, "I like to fish for the salmon and the eel." So the apple really doesn't fall far from the tree. There we go. We'll just keep everybody on ice because it is a little on the warm side today. And they like it cool. They're more likely to stay alive on the ice. Whoa!
Yeah, be careful.
Whoa! That almost got me good. All right, stick to where it's rockier. That almost got me over the boot. I gotta say, after living here in Washington State now for about 8 years, it's really easy to see why the Native Americans here survived and thrived so well. Because interestingly, Native Americans first migrated right through Washington State in the first place over 10,000 years ago. There's actually evidence of shortly after the ice wall melted from the last ice age, 13,000 years ago, there are actually fishing weirs in British Columbia that showed that natives or humans came through there and actually built those fish weirs 13,000 years ago. Super cool, really, to think there's been people here this long doing the same thing I do today. That is a dead clam. That's why I like to check them. It's always easier to check them once you clean them off. Really, really look like they're alive because they're closed tightly. All right, let's add our live ones to our catch and get back to more digging. It's funny, I thought about wearing my galoshes today because I knew it would be muddy, but I figured I'd be able to stick to mud that was shallow enough that I could just wear these boots. So they're a lot more comfortable than my galoshes. I gotta thank my job at Amazon for providing me with shoes like this on a yearly basis that I can just beat the hell out of and not pay for. Thanks, Amazon. So just so you know, if you do live anywhere in the greater Tacoma, Puyallup, Thurston County, Pierce County area, keep an eye out. I might just be your Amazon man. The lightest color one we caught yet. That might be a different species. Or it might just be a Manila. Move our spot just a little bit, just to keep things interesting. We're already up to 36 clams in just a few minutes of digging, really. So But I like to keep the scenery interesting. So let's move to a slightly different spot, see how it goes. It's a big beach. There we go. Substrate's a little rockier here, makes for easier navigation, so that's something at least. A little close to the water level. Let's see. That's a good one. All right, I like this spot. There are bigger clams here. And a lot of them. Oh, that's exciting. Here we go. You could probably get the rest of our second limit just in a 6 square foot area here, I'd bet. If we wanted to do such a thing, we'll see how it goes. There's a nice clam right there. Yeah, this spot is amazing for clams. Bigger average size and abundance is excellent. Plus, we're closer to the water level, so there's going to be less bacteria buildup in these guys since they've only been exposed and out of the actual water level for basically no time. I'm pretty much grabbing them out of the water level. I'm pulling so much food out of the ground. This is awesome. I just love shellfishing. It is one of my favorite things to do. And it is so easy. It's so easy to just dig holes and pull clams up out of the ground. And you can feed your family some fancy food. A shellfishing license is so cheap too. You can easily pay for your annual shellfishing license with one trip. And when you're in the right area, clamming is especially easy. You can catch your limit so fast. This hole just keeps producing. I keep thinking about stopping, but every time I put my hands back in the water, they come up with more clams. All right, this will be a beautiful little spot to just let them naturally wash off in the stream here. Such a beautiful little clam sink and hand washing station. Thank you, nature. All right, so we're at 18 now on top of the 44. So we're up to 62. There's only 18 clams to go now. All right, we are getting there. Oh, this is amazing. I can't believe how little effort it's taken to dig up all these clams. It's a little rockier here. There's a good one. Got a few good sized ones out of that though. I'm gonna move down just a little bit closer to the level I was at. All right, I'm seeing a good amount in there. What do we got, clam hole? We got some clammies. Another thing to keep in mind when you are fishing and shellfishing in Washington State is kids under 15 can fish for free. So if you bring your kids along, they increase your limit. Plus, it's great fun for kids. What little boy doesn't like to dig in the muck? Plus, it's a great life skill to teach them. The funny thing is, we never even made it to the point on the beach where I was intending to go. So the clams are this prolific here, and it's not even the best spot on the beach. All right, let's get a count. So we're 18 away from, or we were 18 away from our limit. So we got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, yep, 15, 16, 17, 18. And we went 3 over, so we'll leave the 3 smallest ones back in the hole we got them from. There we go. We just caught 2 limits of clams and casually just having fun digging in about an hour or less. And we're gonna cook up a beautiful feast when we get home. Oh, what an abundance of special food. Use my channel here to finish cleaning these. The water coming through here is pretty cool. Like, wow, a lot cooler than most of the water coming through these tidal channels. Wonder if that's coming from a natural spring or something. So it's almost 80 degrees today, and this water coming through here's got to be closer to like 65 degrees. And you don't have to clean your clams like this before you leave. Tons of people don't, but I like my clams. I like to see how pretty they are. How can I properly appreciate them when they're all covered in mud? All right, there we go. What do you think? How many oysters should we shoot for?
18, just one limit.
Just one limit? Yeah, I don't want to shuck more than that. That's enough. That's enough. There we go. Whew. That backpack is considerably heavier. Probably got, if I were to guess, probably around 7 pounds of clams there, which is plenty enough. At $13 a pound, which those clams currently are at local stores, and that's where they're caught, is locally, that's pretty darn good. Pretty darn good catch for about an hour of effort. All right, let's check this oyster here. There's a little crabby hiding on the oyster shell, and another tiny hermit crab. I'll leave this oyster. There you go, guys. There's too much life going on that oyster to keep. What is even going on with this oyster? That's the fattest oyster I've ever seen. That's massive. Super, it's just one oyster. It's huge. I gotta keep this guy and open him up just to see what it looks like in there. Looks like it might be a challenge. We'll see how it goes. We'll probably shuck our oysters along one of these beams here. These are, we always try to find our oysters in the closest level to the water that we can, because they're just safer that way, less likely to have bacteria growth because they've been exposed and out of the water for the least amount of time. There we go. There's a little oyster. Perfect. See, it's still wet. It's always ideal to get them when they're still wet. There's a tiny little hermit crab on there. There's lots of little sea squirts here. These particular ones almost look like Kraft mac and cheese growing up out of the seafloor. We're not gonna keep a ton of oysters because we got a lot of clams, and really my wife and I are the only ones in the house right now that like to eat oysters. So we're just gonna gather up maybe 10 or 12 oysters for us. Remember, when you are harvesting food, there's no need to take more than you need or more than you're gonna eat. It's much better to leave the excess and leave the environment as intact as possible. It's an ecosystem. You don't need to do more damage to it than necessary. It's lumpy, not easy to walk on it. Oh, and that's muddy. All right, this seems like a nice spot to shuck our oysters. Nice and close to the tide level we grabbed them from, so it'll be easy to return the shells. Got the ones we have in here on out. Thankfully, this time I actually remembered to bring a cut glove. Brought this little container to put my shucked oysters in. The easiest point to shuck oysters from generally is from the hinge. That's where you're gonna have your biggest opening to get your shucker in. There we go. So the way you can tell your oysters are still good, you wanna give them a good sniff. And you wanna make sure they smell like fresh ocean, not like rotting fish. And their shells should be held securely shut, and they should look nice and clean inside. And you also want to make sure that the oyster inside doesn't look dry at all. You want to take a close look at the black ring around the outside of the oyster and make sure that that isn't dry at all. Let's see, still nice and moist and fresh looking inside. My oyster container over here into my shadow so it's not getting direct sunlight. So it is a little on the warm side, and you don't want them getting too hot before you put them on ice. Beautiful little oyster. There we go. Oh, that is a beautiful looking oyster there. Look at that. Last one, I saved the most interesting for last. I am excited to see what this giant ball of an oyster looks like on the inside. This is unlike any oyster I have ever found. So let's see. That was a lot easier to pop into than I expected. It's a super heavy, thick piece of shell. He's pretty big too, though. He's a chunker. Look how fat that guy is. Yep, that is the fattest oyster I have ever seen. All right, last one in the tub. There we go. That is an incredibly fat shell. Wow. We have all our oysters here. We'll take those home and fry them up directly on the ice. Return our shells. Ooh, that tide's coming in on us. All right. All right, it's time to get the shuck out of here. So now before we go, let's pick a few berries so we can make some dessert to go with our feast. It's the end of July, so this is the first round of ripe blackberries. There's still lots of unripe berries on the bushes, but a good amount of ripe ones. You can always tell a blackberry's ripe if it comes off easily. If you gotta pull too hard on it, it's probably not quite all the way ripe. I'll just have my wife make us a quick cobbler out of these blackberries when we get back, so we can have dessert with our clam linguine and fried oysters. Got some apples mixed in with these berry bushes here. What do you think? Should we make some apple cider to go with some of our meals later in the year when we got more ripe apples? I love making cider. We got our own press. So if you want to see some cider action, let me know in the comments below. All right, that ought to do it for a little cobbler. Got about 1.5 pounds of berries there. All right, so we got all we came for. Let's go home and make our feast. All right, we made it back. We're in the outdoor kitchen. We purged our clams already. You always want to give Manila clams purge themselves very quickly. It only takes about an hour or so for them to purge themselves. You just put them in some cold salt water and they'll just spit out all their extra junk. Manila clams are great for that, very quick. Other clams can take much longer. And while that was happening, my wife already made our cobbler. It smells amazing, it looks amazing. I can't wait to taste that later. So we gotta get going on preparing dinner. First things first, I've got to chop some wood to burn in the wood stove. I love chopping wood. Grew up in New Hampshire and I used to always split 2 cords of wood with my dad every year to burn in our fireplace to help heat the house. By the way, welcome home. If you haven't been here before, this is my house and this is my outdoor kitchen. I love cooking with the wood stove. This wood stove is beautiful. It is an absolute pleasure to cook on. It's a Collie LeMay 600. It was made and manufactured in the 1970s and 80s. There we go. Fire is blazing. Got to get our water boiling for our noodles. We'll do that here where it is burning. So today we're just going to be making a very simple clam linguine recipe. It should be fantastic. Simple is, there's nothing wrong with simple. Here's our final clam catch, all cleaned up and ready to go. Beyond that, we are going to fry up some oysters. But we're gonna wait to fry the oysters in the end because fried oysters are always best fresh. After loading it up with more wood, the fire is now going big time in the back, not so much in the front. And it's gonna take a lot of heat to get that water boiling. As always, in the outdoor kitchen, you might see or hear some chicken shenanigans. All right, so we're just gonna be making a simple linguine here. We're gonna be using some onions and garlic, We're gonna fry those up with some fresh herbs from the garden, with some butter, and make our linguine sauce. I am a big fan of garlic. I will not be shy with its usage. Get that heating up. All right, give that a few minutes to heat up. Get our herbs off the stem here. There we go, lots of rosemary. So we're just using rosemary and oregano. Our sauce butter is ready to go. So after these onions, garlic, and herbs simmer for a bit, we're just gonna set them aside and we will add them to our linguine at the end. This will be the flavor punch for the linguine sauce. One of the most important parts of that linguine sauce, though, is clam juice that we will have left over from the steam boil of our clams. Almost forgot one of the most important parts here, lemons. Gotta have some lemons. I'll just add juice from this one. Good forearm workout. There we go. All right, time to clean this mess up a little bit. Salt and pepper to taste. I'm a salty guy. All right, the garlic is starting to brown. That is done. Pull that off. Let that calm down. We're gonna use this little wok here. So let's get our sauce over into a bowl here. That smells so good. Leave no flavor behind. All right, time to add our linguine. Since my wife makes soap, all of our oil containers are kind of ridiculously big. We're gonna add just a little bit of oil to the noodles, or a lot. I tried to only add a little. That'll help the noodles not stick together. All right, let's get steaming. So you should steam your clams for 5 to 10 minutes. Want to stay closer to the 10-minute side on that spectrum because of the Vibrio warning. Whenever you're harvesting clams in the summer, it's not particularly cold out in general. You definitely want to give them just a little extra time just to be safe. Bowl out. We'll make our linguine in this bowl in the end. We got our clam steaming. We need more heat. Need to make the fire do more things in the front. There we go. More fire. Linguine noodles are pretty thick, so you want to give them a good 10 to 12 minutes of boiling time. They should be just about there, though. They're getting close. We can start frying our oysters while our clams finish steaming, and hopefully everything will be done close to the same time. Have everything nice and hot and fresh. Trying not to burn the crap out of myself here. There you go, chickens. Have a fried noodle. That's perfect. One great thing about cooking outside, you can just make a big old mess and just hose it down. Now we will add our sauce to our noodles. Get that mixed up. Perfect. All right, let's check on our clams. Oh yeah, they are definitely super done now. Just set them right here. Awkward. So many clams. All right, it is time to get our oysters prepped for frying. Just gave them a good rinse in cold water. Gonna set them on the paper towel here so they can dry off a bit. We'll just make our batter real quick. We're just using some Louisiana spicy chicken fry. We only have 10 oysters to fry, so we won't need a ton of it. Use a little egg, fresh from our chicken's butts. The consistency we're looking for without going over the top. That's actually pretty good. So while that's heating up, let's add our clam juice to our linguine. All right, so we'll just take it off the top like this. Oh, that's perfect. All right. All right, our oil should be all good now. Let's toss our oysters in the batter. The consistency I usually go for with this kind of batter is about that of a pancake batter. All right, there we go. As with all summer shellfish, you want to make sure they are cooked all the way through. Should be perfect here because they are not frying at the highest of temperature. So we can fry them a little extra time without the batter burning on there. Should be perfect. We can go ahead and plate ourselves up our linguine. Got ourselves some clams. Really, one more for good measure. Manila clams are so good. They're on the smaller side, but they are just scrumptious little nuggets of clammy goodness. All right, our oysters should be just about done. Look at those beautiful golden nuggets of oystery goodness. We're ready to eat. Here is the beautiful cobbler we made out of the blackberries we picked. Here we go. It is time to try our food out. Oh, that is so perfect. They're so easy to chew. They don't get rubbery. Even if you cook them a little too long, like they're still gonna be tender, and they're delicious. Because they're small, they have small stomachs. They have small stomachs in general. You don't notice that there's a stomach in this clam at all. Wow, that is so good. We have so much. This will feed the whole family for like 2 days. Enjoying the fruits of your labor, harvesting food and cooking it up fresh, feeding yourself, feeding your family. This is what I live for. There is nothing more special. It's time to try a fried oyster. Let's go for this guy here. He's kind of a medium-sized one. The breading came out just perfect on those. Not too heavy, not too light, fried to a perfect golden crispy brown. Just creamy, melt in your mouth, along with that crisp from the fried batter. And then the end, you get that fresh blast of ocean flavor that the oysters provide. It's just perfect. All right, now we have to try some of this cobbler. This is what makes the meal complete right here. Can't have a proper feast without a proper dessert. Gotta get the right balance of biscuit and berry. Oh, wow. Wife, you outdo yourself again. Knowing my wife and judging by how good this is, I imagine she made it with lard and butter. All right. We've tried all the food. It is all amazing. I cannot wait to share this with my family. They're going to absolutely love it. That was such a wonderful day. It was such a pleasure to have you join me for hanging out and going out, gathering our clams and our oysters and coming home, cooking it all up and enjoying it together. This is what I live for. And it was just amazing. All right, really got to give this to my family. If you guys had a good time too, don't forget to click subscribe and come back next time. I guarantee we'll be going back out, catching more food, gathering it up, bringing it home, or not bringing it home. Gonna cook it up and eat it one way or another. Thanks so much for joining me. Take care.